Yeah, everybody. Hey, welcome to a new edition of Black Box Beat. Glad to have y'all there. This special edition, we have a special guest with us today, Theta Warrior, joining us in the show. So glad to see you all. Let's get right on into it. I'm Kane.
I'm Maria.
And I'm Hells. All right, guys. So today was kind of a big deal. We got an inflation print. What do you think, Kang? You and I have been watching this pretty closely. Really curious to see what you have to say about it.
Hey, it was the most important inflation report ever, right? That joke that gets played out on FinTwit. um, no, I mean we had some. I thought it was interesting how the market actually reacted to it. We were talking about it today in the room. There wasn't too long ago where we were like cooler by like 0.1%, and the market like rocketed, right? And so now we were a little hotter on both measurements. As I was looking at it here, core was just a little hotter. It came in month over month, 0.3 versus 0.2 expected. And then you had like the headline, which I think everybody expected because you've had, energy prices. So we've had that rise in oil, but came in a little hotter than expected. And I thought the market might not necessarily like it, but it just seemed like it was mostly a snooze fest.
Yeah, Mario, how about yourself? Anything?
I'm with Kang. It was mostly a snooze fest. I didn't. We talked actually. We did talk about it a little bit this morning too, where we're kind of expecting maybe a little bit more of a reaction, and the market just didn't give it to us. So I think we just have to see what happens next week. I'm really looking forward to the Fed next week. I want to see what they do. I want to see what their commentary is. So that's the big thing for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Look, they said that they would be data dependent. I don't know if this changes the math or the equation at all. I think the prevailing opinion is that they keep on jacking rates, they're going to drive us right into a recession. And if we are, kind of waddling in the right direction as far as CPI and inflation, it's like, okay, let's actually let the data speak a little bit before we make some knee jerk reactions. The initial sell and then bounce, watching the move on the dollar, what to me was awfully interesting. Really, how they sank the dollar and they ran the markets up, banging around high a day for the majority of the day, and at the end of the day, decided to sell it off and shoot the dollar to the upside. That was really, really interesting, especially when you pair it up against some of the flow that we were seeing. It's a really, really tough spot with OPEX this week, with Fed next week. This is just another piece of the puzzle that really I'm still as confused as I was before. So that's what I have regarding that. You guys, anything else you want to talk about? You want to talk about Apple and the
Yeah,
USB charger? Yeah.
I'm excited to do this with the new watch. You see
Revolutionary.
that
Revolutionary.
with the new watch?
Do you wear the watch?
I do. I do right
Do you
there.
really? Do you track
I
all your
do.
stuff on there?
Well, my workouts I do. Yeah, I don't wear it to
Very
sleep, but this next one I get, I will.
All right, very good. All right, so as Kane kind of mentioned to top off the show a little bit, we have a very special guest today. Everybody knows him, everybody loves him, puts out some incredible material out on the interwebs. Very, very smart guy, Theta Warrior. What's up, man?
Hey, Hells, Maria, King, glad to be here. Thanks a
Hey,
lot for having me on.
Thanks for
I
being
mean,
here.
definitely our pleasure. We're excited to see
likewise.
what you have to deliver to us today, which from the sounds of it, it's really, really interesting. So I will be taking notes. So if you want to jump into it, man, grip and rip.
For sure. So I have a couple charts that I wanted to look at. For anyone who's not familiar with my style, I'm primarily a tech trader, and I use both a conjunction of technical analysis and flow to provide myself an entry and exit point when I'm looking to get into a trade. So the first chart I'll talk about is the QQQ, the NASDAQ ETF. Um, as soon as that gets on the screen here, I'll touch on it in just a moment. But basically, what I'm going to be here we go talking about is I think that we've had a nice rally all year, right? We've had a big rip off the lows. Price has since lost its uptrend and recently just failed to reclaim said uptrend. So to me, I think it's wise to be cautious here. We're going into, seasonality wise, a weaker time of the year. We have, the last quarter coming up on us for 2023. So I think that it's wise to be cautious here just from a technical standpoint. Again, this could all go out the window if the Fed, pauses and they give us a, a sight of a cut to come. So all of that, all these technicals can go out the window if that happens. But just from a strictly technical standpoint, it's pretty obvious that we've lost what we once had was a nice uptrend. Another thing that I really like to look at is the net options delta, or nod as I'll call it. And I have another chart here for the 5-minute nod. I took this earlier today, and you can see that there's some indecision in the market. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with net options delta, all those squiggly lines, they pertain to different delta changes within the options market. So just a quick rundown: that orange line is the put delta, that blue line is the call delta, the white line is the total delta, so that's going to be call plus put. Your green line is the 0 DTE call delta, the red line is the 0 DTE put delta, and the yellow is the 0 DTE total delta. So I know that's a lot. If you have to pick only one, definitely look at that white line, because that's going to be the total summary of all that delta change. But what this is showing here, and this is just example from today, you can see that put buyers were active from the open. That orange line moving down shows that put buyers are active, and you have that blue line going up, which shows that call buyers are active. So both sides are adding exposure. So that means one of two things. It either means that they don't agree, right? We have people that are bearish, and we have people that are bullish, or we have some call buyers, some equity buyers, and then also some hedging going on. Okay, so it's going to be one of those two scenarios. But I track the nod daily, and I watch it all the time for all the stocks. It's a great summary of what's going on, and it gives me a good synopsis of what's actually happening within the options market without having to filter through each line of flow. So it's a really quick snapshot into what's going on. So I'm watching this daily, and recently I've noticed that we've been tending to skew more towards the downside. So it seems to me that there are more put buyers active than call buyers, which kind of lines up with that technical that you're looking at right now, which kind of plays into the fact. So I think it's wise to be cautious here. The next chart I'll move on to, so I don't continue to ramble for the rest of
Real
the time.
quick, when you saw that we came up and rejected that trend line, what's your impulse? Is what is that the bottom of the Q trend line moving back up? What I didn't catch what the impulse on that was, but what I'm wondering when we rejected that trend line, trying to come back up and through, did you notice something different, or was there a trigger on NOD that kind of said, hey, this could be something to pay attention to?
Yes, for sure. So I'm actually really glad you asked that. I noticed I believe it was the last day of August or the day before the last day of August, right around before we were just coming up against that trend line, the nod was skewed heavily to the downside. And remember, that was after we just had that big rip up. We maybe moved a little bit too far, too fast. Some of that was likely going to be hedging. Some of that's obviously bearish bets being made. But we had a nod reading of negative 10 million, which is pretty significant as far as the SPY or the Qs go. Once you start to watch these names more often, you kind of get to know their personality and what's kind of too far and what's within range in terms of net options delta. And the SPY and the Qs hit negative 10 million, which is quite a significant reading, and we dumped after that. I mean, the market pulled back right after that. So I haven't seen a reading like that since, or I should say in September yet, but it's certainly been skewing lower. Like you can see right there in that screenshot, it's going to be negative 1.2 million, 1.3 million, 1.1 million. So you can see that they're still, favoring the downside protection there, even today.
Very good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Theta, I was just
For
going to
sure.
say real quick, be careful using logic and charts. They might call you a bear.
I am not a bear. I'm not a bull. I'm a trader. I promise. I could care less which direction this market goes. And I know you're poking fun of me there, King, and I love it because I know you agree with me. You don't care which way it goes as long as we get a move.
Right on. That's a thing of beauty right there. I love that chart.
For sure. So jumping right into the next one, we have the Microsoft Daily. Now, if the options market is correct, and if that analysis I just pulled up of the NASDAQ is correct, where can we look to be sellers or shorting this market? I think that Microsoft obviously makes up a big component of the NASDAQ and the SPY. showing us a rising wedge, typically a bearish pattern. So if the market does roll over, I want to look to find charts that are going to move in the same direction as the market. So this is going to be a bearish setup that I would look to see if, options, put buyers are going to be active. If they're putting some new skin on the game. Ideally, I want to see puts being bought and calls being sold, and that will easily be shown in the nod if and when that does happen. So the Microsoft chart, I think, is definitely a good one to watch if we do see weakness in through the rest of September and into the rest of the year. So that's a good one to watch if it goes to the downside. And then moving right along, we'll look at Amazon next, because of course nobody's right all the time. I could absolutely be wrong. This market may want to continue to rip higher. I think Amazon is a great stock to look for strength. We had a nice breakout this week. You can see yesterday we pulled back and consolidated a little bit, and then today we pushed higher again, taking out this recent high that we saw a few weeks ago there. So that chart to me is showing a lot of strength. If you zoom out, I don't have it here prepared for us, but if you zoom out, you can see that this is a key level on the weekly chart. You can see we bounced up and down this for years in the past, the 145 range. So I want to make sure that price is able to clear that level. We kind of already had the breakout. We may get some continuation here if the market tends to move higher, but this is certainly a good one to look at if you're looking for more upside in the market. And then lastly, AMD, I have another daily chart for you here. So this one is an egg yet to crack, I'll say. So it's I think, bullish looking chart, potentially, if we can move above this trend line. You can see 2 times in the past this year, the price is consolidated in a very similar fashion, a falling wedge, a bull flag, whatever you want to call it, and eventually broke higher from said consolidation. So I think that this one's getting ready to move higher. If I'm wrong and we reject here, this is a great area to short against, kind of that 110 zone, that trend line, that downtrend line that's coming down against us. So this is kind of a if or then type of scenario. I think this one, could move in either direction. It's right at that, inflection point. So definitely one to keep an eye on. So that's kind of my broad analysis of the market, so on and so forth. And I guess we'll see what happens for the rest of the year.
Awesome
Really
charts,
great.
man. Awesome
Thank
charts.
you.
Thank you.
Really, really great. Quick question: how often do you go and try to reconcile the NOD? Is that an every morning thing, or is that an evening thing? When you go and try to reconcile what may have come through on the day, and what does it, to follow up with that? What does it take to maybe change your thought or change your overall opinion on something on a daily, because you're looking at it daily? What would make you change intraday as far as changing maybe the mindset surrounding one of those charts?
Sure. So I look at Nod, continuously throughout the day. I have it on one of my 8 monitors that I use to trade throughout the day. So it's always up and running. I'm always watching to see what's happening. Basically, I want to see, Nod moving in conjunction with price. If that starts to come out of line, let's say I'm looking at a bullish chart, but there's tons of puts being bought and tons of calls being sold. I want to know that. So that's going to keep me out of that trade. Ideally, I'd like to see both coming together. Now, of course, Nod can be wrong. Maybe you have a lot of put buyers, but price moves up, and that's just hedging, right? So it's not going to be a perfect system, but it's certainly very helpful to see, kind of which way the tide is moving. You can almost think of it like a trend, right? Like trend is your friend, right? Just like we say with price, you want to see that Nod is going to be trending in your direction. So I look at it constantly throughout the day. And then of course, I want to see where it closes at and see, if those puts that were bought, say during today, do they come off at the open tomorrow as we move higher, or do they continue to add more? So there is some carry through. That's why it's helpful also to look at the difference between the 0 DTE, which obviously isn't going to roll forward, as well as the longer dated stuff. So if you have a total Nod of negative 2 million, but your 0 DTE Nod is negative 1 million, a million of that's going to expire. So we know potentially a million is going to roll. So you can kind of look at it like that and look at it day to day.
Really great. Last question I have for you. So where do you find all of this great NOD stuff? What is your platform or website of choice in order to get all this wonderful data?
Well, the only place you can find it is on BlackBoxStocks. And this is actually a really, really helpful indicator and software that I was lucky to, be a consultant on as it was being developed. And I just love the way it came out. And I think you guys absolutely killed it. And it really aids me a lot in my trading. Like I said, I don't take a trade before consulting the nod. So Black Box Stocks, it's available online, desktop, super easy to add to your charts. It's right there on the active study list. So definitely one worth checking out.
Fantastic. Well, Theta, thank you so much for coming on, man. You sticking around for Shag Mary? I hope so. Yeah.
I sure am.
Somebody didn't look at the
All right.
room.
Shag Mary Kill, everybody. We know the game. We know the score. Maria, you're up.
Okay. All right. So my pick this week is MDB. It is a shag. There was some nice buying into the November 450s a couple of days ago. I believe that was on Monday. I picked these up primarily because MDB flow typically tends to work out, and I kind of like the spot that they picked them up at. I know the contracts seem a little bit further out of the money, but MDB regularly has outsized days. It's nothing. It's nothing that they can't do. And quite honestly, from this point, I really just needed to move in my direction, and those contracts will work. Looking at that chart, you can see that they did buy these right around a prior area of support, and it's a decent risk reward entry area. So again, I like that. OI looks okay. There weren't a ton of contracts bought, which is fine, but it looks like what they did buy did stick. So for me, it's a shag. We'll see what happens with it.
Awesome stuff, Maria.
I was just taking a look at the 4 hour and daily on MongoDB because it's not one that I normally trade. The 4 hour is kind of stretched to the downside. So on that one, it's looking like we could get a bounce. The daily for me though is kind of in no man's land. So I like the analysis. I like the reason for taking it. I would be sitting this one out just because I would need to get some more conviction in the
I got
chart to be able to get it either way.
it. Understood. Yeah.
Theta, what you got, man? What are your thoughts on the great Maria?
I like it. Mario is not a trader that I want to fade. I think that the chart looks, potentially weak to me. It's coming right up against that kind of daily rising trend line, and it's starting to lose that support, below that 375 zone. She's got the flow to back it up. Kind of plays into my theme of potentially seeing some overall weakness, the rest of the month. So I think it's good.
Fantastic. All right, man. So you're new to the game, but you're up next. What do you got for us on the Shag, Mary, Kill?
Okay, so Microsoft is going to be my pick, and it's actually a kill. And I'll preface this by saying that this is simply a trade. I love Microsoft long term. I'm sure they'll be very successful. Just speaking from strictly a trader standpoint here. I really like the rising wedge. I want to see some big put buyers come in and support my thesis. This could, of course, get blown out of the water if we move higher up and out of this wedge. But this, I think, is a brewing short setup if the market does roll over. So Microsoft, look for it to be a kill.
All right, so I'll go ahead and jump on this. I've seen many rising wedges be the most risingest wedges to ever exist. They just keep on. They just keep on rising with these wedges. What I will say is this: you do have a catalyst on deck tomorrow with Adobe ER. I think Adobe is going to set the stage. For me, Adobe has always been one of those bellwethers, if you will, because a report kind of off cycle. So yeah, for sure, it's like tomorrow is a big day that could be your catalyst for a breakdown of that wedge. I like the idea.
That's a great call. And there was just some flow that I forgot to mention that just popped on the screen there. Definitely some active put buyers today. Potentially could be rolling. I saw some closing in the 335s that expire this week. So potentially they're rolling up and out. And I know you guys will touch on this, and it's important for everybody to understand in the money puts is not bullish, right? A lot of the time they'll go in the money if they want a higher delta, a higher theta. So this to me, it's yellow, it's on the ask. It looks like it's an opening trade to me. So I would say that's certainly some bearish flow, potentially looking for a cheap way to short the stock potentially into next week.
Very nice. All right, this is me. This is the Home Depot that I'm still short. It's at least kind of sort of maybe moving in my direction, kind of sort of maybe slowly. I continue to think that the narrative surrounding Home Depot is still to the downside. I am still in this trade. I plan on staying in this trade based on some of the breakdown and the loss of that 330. I am not a big fan of the consumer out there spending, especially when it comes to appliances, especially after that restoration hardware I think a lot of things are pointing that we could get some weakness in this sector. I will continue to stay short the Home Depot, as painful as it may be.
Hey, you're very. I give you credit, Hells. You're very enthusiastic about it. It was like it's me, it's me, it's me.
Well, it's me. It's me. I'm over here getting my ass kicked on it. It's great. It's
uh,
great. It's a good time.
hey, I applaud the enthusiasm. Here's the thing that with Home Depot. Oh, we're going straight to okay. Well,
Hey, you cashing over there,
okay.
man?
All right, yeah, it's well, we went straight to it. All right, so cash for me, it's just kind of the indecision right here. We've been hanging around 44.69, 44.64. We broke it to the downside today, but over the past several sessions on SPX, we've just been kind of hanging out. And I really look at SPX kind of as a broader, measure of breadth in the or sentiment in the market. And so we've just been chopping around over the past few sessions. So I couldn't really give anything with any kind of conviction. Although I hope folks from the last one from last week shorted Nvidia, because I talked about that last week, and that has been a great short over the past week. So hopefully y'all caught that one. But for right now, we're just kind of chopping around over the past few days. We always come back to this level. So I am recommending cash. Just
Nothing
scalp
wrong with
cash
money.
until we get some nice direction.
Yeah, we have Fed next week and OPEX on Friday. Makes sense to me.
Yep.
Mari, anything you want to add?
No, I understand it. I get it. The flow hasn't really been supporting too much of anything as far as options, as far as putting money to work. Small, very speculative plays, a week out, 2 weeks out, but nothing with a bunch of time where that I absolutely love. Nothing really into any specific sector. No consistent theme in my mind. No consistent theme that I like to see. So I get it.
Agreed.
Cash makes sense.
Agreed. Agreed.
Let's go.
Agreed. All right, so here we go. Again, this was a very special day because Theta's here. So there is actually a question directed specifically to Theta. Theta, Kells 123 asked the question. They asked the question, okay, what is your secret trading weapon?
Okay, so my secret trading weapon, first I'll just give you the fundamental answer. I think that personally it's my patience and my ability to take a loss and move on from it. My patience just comes from experience and just waiting for my pitch and over trading in the beginning of my career and not wanting to do that. So some days there's days I take no trade at all. And then in terms of taking a loss, I think that every trader has to be able to take a loss. And if you have a proven winning trading system, then taking a loss should be okay because it's just an anomaly, right? But the other answer I'll give you as far as an indicator wise is certainly going to be net options delta. Surprise, surprise. So I think that is certainly my secret trading weapon, because when you're looking at flow, there's so many lines that come in. And when you're looking at multiple names, it can really take a long time to dissect all of that flow. So for me, using net options delta is like a cheat sheet, or like a shortcut to the answer. And I can really get a good idea of which way the options market is pushing price. And sometimes it will do that, based on what the market maker is having to do in the background. So I'll give you an example. Somebody may post like a very high notional, let's say $1 million Tesla trade, right? And if they're buying the 10 delta call, okay, that's going to have a very little effect on the stock in terms of the hedging, right? We all know when a call is bought by a market participant, there's somebody on the other side that has to sell it. Market maker is going to be buying the stock in most cases to hedge that position. So that can actually have an uplifting effect on the stock itself. So $1 million 10 delta call position versus a $500,000 50 delta call position, that 50 delta call position is going to have a much greater effect. So all of this, big trade size, $1 million, $2 million, if it's like a little delta position, it's really not doing all that much. So by using NOD, you eliminate that confusion, because NOD is going to take into effect, okay, they bought $500,000 of that 50 delta call. That's going to have a much greater effect on the market maker that has to buy that stock. Versus a 10 delta call. So NOD is, I think, a really great tool that allows me to be really quick and figure out, which way, market participants are attempting to push price. Now, sometimes price is obviously going to lead the options market. You'll see a big spike up, a breakout, and then all the call buyers will come in. Occasionally, though, you'll see price move up into a resistance, and the options market will know ahead of time, and they'll start hammering puts. They'll start getting out all their calls. They'll start buying all their puts, and that's when you can say to yourself, okay, options market is not positioning themselves for a breakout here. Maybe this is a good opportunity for me to either trim my longs, push my stop, or even get short, which is usually what I look to do, and capitalize on that rejection of a resistance level, and then hopefully move lower. So net options delta certainly would be my secret sauce, my secret weapon.
Well, everyone, you heard it here. You heard it from Theta. He has said that, this NOD with black box stocks, that it is one of the best on the planet, and that's what he uses. He says it's a secret weapon. He's like, what do you want to do? It's Theta. He said secret weapon.
But Theta, I thought you were about to say, I could have swore I thought you were about to say your secret weapon was like one of those Elon flamethrowers.
Well, I have one of those too for when trades don't work out,
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I was like, I thought he was going to talk about he just pulls out the Elon flamethrower.
All right. Well, Theta, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we'll see you back around some other time. But, man, it was an absolute pleasure. Maria, Kang, y'all have anything else?
Well, we hear the Oscar, just like at the Oscars, folks, we hear the music. So we know what that means. Hey, again, Theta, we really appreciate you for stopping by. Tons of knowledge. But that'll close us out for this week, folks. Again, like and subscribe. We'll be here next week. And stay green, everybody. So until next week, peace.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.